Okay, Gloomers, if you aren't aware that Jaws of the Lion is now available for download as DLC for Gloomhaven Digital. So if you missed out on the experience, then hey, you now can experience in digital. Also, if you just wanted to play through it again, like I do. But it's not just the exact same carbon copy of Jaws of the Lion. There have been a few changes, and I want to go over one in particular. Remember, if you want to be kept up to date with everything Gloomhaven, Frosthaven, and whatnot, be sure to like and subscribe. So although there are a few perk changes, including giving the Red Guard the ability to equip items with negative penalties, and then being able to equip them, which is something that a lot of people already ad hoc'd into the Red Guard. Now we have an official ruling for it, but the big thing I want to talk about is the Demolitionist level 5 card. Now, as a result, since we are going to be talking about that, this will be a spoiler video, so I just want to give you a little bit of warning that we'll be exclusively talking about that card, and there may be a few other spoilers in the process. The big change is it's no longer a heal 10, it just raises your current maximum hit points by 5. Now also, and this is the one that's very significant, when you play it, you recover all cards in your discard, and the bottom's different. Notably, move 2 loot 1 is actually pretty weak for a level 5 bottom. Although, it depends on your class, but like the hatchet being able to loot is important, but there's basically a better version of that card later. It's got a conditional loot 1, but the hatchet gets more out of mid-turn looting than the Demolitionist, which kind of leads the bottom half previously to be incredibly undesirable. And now we have move 2, attack 2, and by the time you're level 5, your modifier deck is very improved, and the Demolitionist's attack modifier deck is actually very incredible, being able to more readily get lots of +2s compared to some of the other classes. Additionally, some additional obstacle creation's pretty nice. You might be able to interact with that with some of your cards as well. But the big thing is the mech suit top. The mech suit top, I think first off, this is probably going to come up a very insignificant amount of times, but I think it bears some attention. When it says it raises your maximum and current health by 5, it no longer is a heal 10, although heal 10 is clearly better than a heal 5. The heal 5 will get around poison, so it will just bump up your current max health, which is great. The top half was just lackluster before, and certainly the bottom half was, but here's the thing. Because of all the new changes that it's had, it's almost mandatory now. Now that doesn't mean it is, because it's still powerful. Let's go into why it's significant first before we explain why I think it's almost mandatory. So why is this card so notably more important now? Well, it basically has taken replaced one of your long rests with a better card. You still recover all your discarded cards, you still lose 1 card, but you get some better benefits. So it's not necessarily a complete upgrade because it will require you to play it earlier or later and so on and so forth. We'll get into that. But when you choose to do it, the thing is, when you take a long rest, you do nothing for the turn. You don't play a top, you don't play a bottom. You get all your cards back and heal 2. And you get to pick the one you lose. Now, for mech suit, you pick the one you lose, you lose mech suit. That's plain and simple. You don't heal 2, you raise your current max health, which is just objectively better unless you have some card that says all your heal effects do something, which, you know, the demo does not, and there's no items in Jaws that would boost this beyond some sort of, it's just clearly better. Additionally, for the rest of the scenario, you get shield 1, and not only that, but you get a cool ass mech, which is ultimately the best reason to play it. But it really overshadows the long rest. Now, you don't need to play it immediately, especially if you've got like a Red Guard in your group who's able to be taking lots of hits. But if you are up front, you may want to play it earlier. And even in your first rest cycle, when you're starting with 9 cards, if you play no losses during your first rest cycle, and you go down to 1 card in hand, move, and then play the top of mech suit, lose it, you recover the 7 cards in your discard and go back up to 8, allowing you to play 4 more cards without even taking your first rest. This allows you 8 turns in a row where you don't have to rest, and the only thing you lose is mech suit. And during that second half of that, you have shield 1 on everything. This gives you some significant longevity boosts while still gaining the shield 1 of mech suit that it had before. There is a little bit of a conundrum though, because although sometimes you are at low health and you're like, I want to have this 5 health boost now, if you play it too early and don't get the full benefit of the discard, recovering all your discard, you may actually lose longevity because you lose the card in the process. And there may be times where you need to play the top of a card and you can't afford to just burn a top half just to put your mech suit into play, where a short rest could allow you to keep going. So it's not perfect. It's not replaced everything. It's not better than rests. Also, you can only do it once per cycle. So after that, everything to recover your discarded cards are going to have to be from resting. However, I do think that the Demolitionist here has received a significant increase to so much of what it had. And you don't need to play it necessarily on the first rest cycle. I largely only do that if you feel like you've cleared the room out by the first 3 turns, you've done enough that you feel that it's significant, or if you do actually really need to use the bottom. But I don't think the bottom is so powerful with a move to attack 2 and potentially create an obstacle that it absolutely needs to be used. Like there's some bottoms where I don't like using the top because the bottom's so much better. The top's great here, but the bottom's still useful in the interim. So if you do have a red guard, or perhaps you've ported this into Gloomhaven and just playing it for fun, another class that isn't taking all the hits, because once you play on higher difficulty and aren't using all of the crowd control you can possibly get your hands on, there's certainly going to be some hits being landed on you up front. So being able to improve your health pool is, I think, a huge boon. But it is good to try to take advantage of this on the rest cycles where you can get an extra rest out of it. Like if you're currently at 6 cards in your hand, and then you lose it and you draw your 5 cards in your discard, you only get 2 out of it. Where if you have 7 cards in your discard and you lose it, you'll actually be able to return to 6 and get 3 turns out of it. So sometimes holding up one more rest cycle will actually change your stamina. So playing it earlier is the best, but you may not get the best timing of it early. That said, there's a lot to juggle. You're going to have to figure out when best to play it in a scenario, but I think that playing it on the 4th turn will give you the best longevity for the Demolitionist, although not every scenario can be predicted that you can forego taking a top half on the 4th turn. It'll be easier in 4-player to more reliably do this because you'll have more teammates being able to play their top actions, and none of the teammates in Jaws will have run out or needed to rest by the 4th turn except the Demolitionist. So as a result, we could finally get to use our sweet mech without like passing on it. Like sometimes when we were playing it, we just passed it up altogether, which is sad because it has such a cool miniature that I just start thinking, man, it feels like a waste. And now it definitely doesn't. Even if you just bring the bottom half, it's still strong, but I do like the top half. I think the top half effectively replaces a long rest if you are going to be taking a long rest. So there's plenty of other things changed in Jaws, but I think that's the biggest significant change. It is funny though, as the tutorial scenarios are replaced with actual scenarios and people get introduced to incredibly brutal vermlings off the bat, like shamans, and then like the vermling raiders are now disarming on initiative 70. People are like, oh crap, I'm not used to this. I do want to see people's reactions to the revised early scenarios as they actually become full-on scenarios instead of just the ones we got used to. So this is such a pretty big overhaul for the Demolitionist because that was kind of its core level 5 card. That I think that some of these approaches could be done to some cards in Gloomhaven, although I don't want to get into the specifics because I'm thinking of at least one class where changing its card, one card can change it immensely, but it's on a locked class. But how changing the mechanics of just a little bit in some classes can go such a long way. And I personally think that this is probably one of the ways to impact the Demolitionist. I know that they have more changes than just a few perk changes. There are a few other cards that got changed, but ultimately I think that there were minimal amount of changes were made to make the maximum amount of improved efficiency of the class, because there were definitely, like, when you try to port it to Gloomhaven, and this is one of the reasons why I rated it so poorly, is they had some interaction with the rubble mechanic and a lot of reliance on obstacles. Now that we have better obstacle generation and from the Demolitionist being able to like knock things into walls and generate obstacles as a result. You can create your own obstacles if there are none. And you can look at the scenario to figure out like how many obstacle tokens are being used at least, and get an idea of which cards you need to bring. But also we have the mech suit, which has drastically improved the Demolitionist stamina and giving it some durability in the process, while also still retaining its little lore flavor and fluff. I do think that the Demolition has moved up a little bit in my book in terms of power, and not only that, but fun and playability. So if you previously slept on the class, I do encourage you to try it out again, because just some of these new interactions are less scenario dependent, and it feels less like it's hosed by bad luck than before, and it's gotten a little bit more powerful too, which I think a lot of people consider to be fun. So remember, we're resuming playing Gloomhaven on Thursdays, so be sure to subscribe to get notified when we go online. I want to thank all of our patrons for supporting the channel. You guys are, as I always say, amazing. Keep kicking ass, and I love all of you, and thank you for supporting the channel, and thank all of you for watching.